Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Lore Master Teach, and today we are going to be going over some deck strategies for the first 4 classes of Rogue Adventure. Let us start off by saying that this is my experience. These are the decks that I've found to be the most useful on early Inferno levels for these 4 classes, and these are kind of just generalist strategies that will support you as you play the game. So we're going to start off with Warrior, right? Warrior starts with Fighter times 4, Guard times 3, and Mage times 1. Fighter deals 6 damage, Guard shields 5, and Mage applies 3 weak and deals 3 damage. These are okay starting cards, and they will not need to be replaced or removed or transformed into other cards as you move about the rest of the game. So, to start off, what you're going to want to start with is going to be the Fairy Beast strategy. This strategy aims for high damage and shielding using Lollipop as your key card. Lollipop is a beast fairy card that applies shield and deals damage equal to the number of fairies, and deals damage and shields equal to the number of beasts and fairies in your deck separately. That means strength will go a long way to boosting the damage that Lollipop does for both fairies and beasts in your deck, as well as resistance will go a long way to increasing the shield you gain from Lollipop for beasts and for fairies in your deck. Cards that are going to help support that are Lizard Fighter, Lizard Guard, Night Fairy, Fairy Queen, Fairy Warrior, and Beast Emperor. These cards are going to deal damage with Lizard Fighter in particular equal to the amount of beasts in your deck. Lizard Guard is going to shield you equal to the number of beasts in your deck. Night Fairy is going to be able to search your discard pile for a Lollipop that you've already played and put it in your hand and shuffle your discard into your deck. Fairy Queen is going to give you 2 permanent strength and 2 permanent resistance when leveled up. Fairy Warrior is damage and shielding equal to your fairies in your deck, so just a weaker version of Lollipop. And then Beast Emperor will give you strength and resistance for the turn, but double the damage you do while giving you overload. These are kind of the core strategy that you're going to want to go to. There are other cards that you can play to support this strategy, but it's not necessary. Medusa is in here as well, just because having a card like this to be able to daze targets that's also a Beastman goes a long way to be supporting the archetype that you're playing, but also giving you some support. You could also replace this with like an Earth Seed if you wanted to, that can deal damage and daze every target instead of just one. The next strategy that you could play with Warrior is going to be Demon Shielding. This strategy dives deep into the defensive gameplay of Armored as much as possible with high Demon Shielding and single target massive damage for equal to your shield. So you're going to be playing cards like Apprentice Guard, which gives you shielding equal to the amount of cards you've played before at this turn. Black Knight, which deals damage equal to your shield. Demon Guard, which gives you shield based on the number of demons you have in the deck. Mermaid Queen, which boosts your resistance permanently. Elite Guard, which gives you resistance for the turn as well as a good boost in shield. Living Armor, which gives you a huge boost in shield and also gives you thorns. And then, of course, you've got your Sacred Knight, which is going to double your shielding. Guardian of Demons is going to be another boost to your shielding that is also a demon. And I believe Sacred Knight also deals damage equal to your shielding, but I might be incorrect there. But it is a decent card to support the shielding strategy. Space Commander gives you Armored if you're above half HP. Ambassadress gives you several turns of Armored, but exiles herself. And then, of course, Earthseed is going to be the card that allows you to daze multiple targets. This strategy is really good if you manage to get some really good demons early on, and you can just dive deep into the strategy. To support the demons, you might also want to toss in some angels for healing, but it's not necessary with how much you're going to be able to protect yourself from the demons that you do have. And you're not going to lose so much HP that you can't make that up in a shop, or you won't beat a boss before you die. So the last generalist strategy for Warrior that you're going to be able to play is the neutral strength and resistance build. This is going to be a good build overall for any deck really, but it just does really well with Warrior because of just how generic it starts off and how good its like abilities are that you can get unlocked. Your goal is to gain as much resistance and strength as possible while staying alive to deal damage. You're going to play cards like Elf Warrior, which allow you to deal single target damage, and if you kill a target 3 times with the beginning stage, she'll upgrade and deal more damage, and then I think 5 to 7 more kills will upgrade it to her final form to deal massive damage to a single target. This is good early on to kind of get you through those early stages, but it's also pretty useful to have just as an extra card for single target DPS. Your High Witch gives you weak on all targets, but exiles herself when she's upgraded. Really useful for getting mass weak on your enemies. Wizard will give you more mana for more plays. You have Mermaid Queen and King Neptune for strength and resistance boosts permanently when they're upgraded. You have Young Witch, which is apply weak if your target doesn't have weak, and if your target has weak, you gain extra mana and overload. Forgotten Priestess removes debuffs and applies weak to your enemies. Vampire Lord, which heals you when it deals damage, equal to the damage dealt. Sun Priestess, which boosts your strength and resistance permanently, and if you don't have demons in your deck, it doubles those bonuses permanently. Masked Swordsman, which deals damage equal to the number of masked swordsmen in the game, exiles itself, and creates a duplicate in your deck. So you'll always have one in your deck, but there will be more of them in the game. Illusionist is a good generalist's card to have in your hand for dealing consistent damage, especially against targets that you can't really necessarily attack all the time. Jellyfish, Earth Golem, I'm trying to think of a couple other ones. There's a couple bosses that you don't, or mini bosses, or regular creatures you just don't want to attack regularly, so Illusionist helps with that. Earthseed for dazing. And then, of course, Young Mermaid, which is going to get you shielding if your target is weakened, and it applies weak. So those are going to be your generalist cards to help Warrior get to the end game. For Wizard cards, you start with 1 Energy Golem, 4 Golem Warriors, and 3 Mud Golems. Energy Golem being the core of every Wizard strategy, where you deal damage equal to the number of magic cards you've played this game to all targets. Golem Warrior, which deals damage and can increase its damage with the number of charges you have built up. So every 10 cards you've played magic-wise, you get a Sphere of Energy, which will increase Golem Warrior's damage. And then, of course, Mud Golem is your magic generate shield. And it's okay. It's not great. You're going to need to get rid of them when you're doing low Inferno strategies, but as you start going up higher and higher, you want to start getting rid of your Mud Golems and Golem Warriors and duplicating your Energy Golems to get these big boy damage out. The first strategy that's going to aid you in completing the early levels of Inferno is going to be the Magic Central strategy. You fill out with as much magic cards as possible and proceed to play Energy Golem and Red Bloom to win the game. So you're going to play cards like Wizard and Young Witch, Old Jester, which allows you to go get a card from your deck. It exiles itself and gives you a mana to play that card. So it's just a free play that allows you to go get Energy Golem late game if you want to be able to just end the game there. Soul's Priestess, which is going to do the same thing. It's going to give you mana, but it's going to let you discard your hand and draw from your discard pile. Druid of the High Elves creates 4 magical Unicorn or Pegasus cards that will either shield, heal, or give you strength and resistance. Soul's Guardian, which is the opposite of Soul's Priestess, which allows you to discard your hand and get cards from your deck and gives you mana. Blue Bloom is a card that is going to create a number of blue beetle cards equal to the number of fairies in your deck. The blue beetle cards are going to give you health. They're going to be free plays and give you 1 mana, and then they're going to exile themselves. So they're free magic cards that give you mana on play and heal you. So it allows you to just build up your magic count really quickly. Red Bloom is going to be your other victory condition in this that allows you to create a number of Red Bloom cards that are free to play. They're a magic card, and they apply poison to your enemies so that you can just let them die via poison while still getting your stacks of magic cards off. And they're free. And they basically, if you have enough of them, you could just spam them out, max out your HP, and just watch your enemies die. Fairy Princess is going to create magic peas in your deck equal to the number of fairies, and these also poison and heal you. So it's another free magic card that you can play to get your magic count up very high. So these cards, Blue Bloom, Red Bloom, and Fairy Princess, are super useful in spamming magic cards out. And then, of course, Moon Fairy, which is going to allow you to go get cards, and it counts towards your fairy count. So it'll be pretty useful for you to be able to get this play style down. The next strategy you might want to try is Ancient Angels. The goal revolves around exiling your cards and then nuking your opponents with high damage, and then being able to bring back the exiled cards over and over again. And then, of course, the strategy revolves around Energy Golem. So these are all going to be magic cards to be able to boost your magic count. You're going to be playing cards like Blessed Angel for healing yourself, the Spirit cards of Combat, Magic, and Defense, which are free cards until they transform, and then if you play all three of them, you get the Spirit combination card. Azor, the Exiled Wizard, Angel Assistant, Sun Priestess, the Time Shifter for being able to go get all your exiled cards back, Artillery Unit, which is going to allow you to nuke people equal to the number of exiled cards you have, Mermaid Queen and King Neptune for just boosting the damage and also including it in the exile count. And then, of course, the VO1 BO1 machine, which is going to give you shield. It gives you mana when it comes into your hand, not when you play it. It exiles itself when you do play it. It gives you shield. It's just a solid card, and it's magic. And then, of course, Young Witch for playing off of the weakness and being able to play lots of different cards over and over again. So you're going to include things like Wizard in here to get extra mana each turn, and you're basically going to go to try and play as much as you can, exile all your cards, and just nuke somebody with Artillery Unit or Energy Golem. And then, of course, the Grand Wizards combo. When you play the two Grand Wizards together, when they're played in the same turn, they're going to give you the Grand Wizard, and he is the extra turn card that is pretty useful, and he is magic, so he counts for all that stuff as well. The next card, or next class we're going to look at strategies for, is Assassin. He starts with 4 Hitmen and 4 Black Widows. The 4 Hitmen are useful for getting multiple stacks of your Assassin's Mark on cards. And then, of course, Black Widow gives you a huge amount of shield, equal to 3 times the amount of Assassin's Marks on a target. So it could be 9, and if you have resistance, it becomes 12. And the first strategy that you're going to want to play with Assassins, because you don't want to get rid of any of these cards early on. You could drop Hitman and not even worry about it with other cards, but Black Widows you can't get rid of. They are just super useful, super defensive cards. You're not going to ever want to get rid of Black Widows. So the first strategy is going to be the Poison Defense Boys. This is a Beastman deck that utilizes applying poison and subsequently shielding yourself, so you let poison kill your enemies. You play stuff like Toxic Cat, Medusa, Spider Queen, Ant Wizard, Snake Emperor, Dark Lord, and Roaring Beast. Toxic Cat applies poison to a single target, giving you a stack of Assassin's Mark. Medusa, which is your days on target, you play X amount of Beastmen, you evolve her, so really useful. Spider Queen, which applies poison to all targets, and then after you play X amount of Beastmen, she transforms and applies even more poison. Ant Wizard shields you equal to the number of Beastmen in your deck. The Snake Emperor, which is going to deal 9 damage if the target is not poisoned, and then 18 damage if it is poisoned, and it's a Beastman, so it counts towards your Beastman count. Dark Lord, which applies burn, poison, and then deals damage. It's just good for extra poison. The burn's also there, but it's not the most sought after. And then, of course, there's Roaring Beast, which deals damage equal to the number of beasts in your deck, applies poison equal to the number of beasts in your deck, and then exiles itself. So it's pretty good for like a Beastman strategy. And then, of course, whatever else you think you need to defend yourself, cards that allow you to get resistance and stuff like that. And so this is a very passive playstyle, but a very safe playstyle, which will allow you to kill your targets while being relatively unharmed in any fight. The last one is a more offensive strategy for the Assassin, and that's Multi-Attack Murderer. It is Strength and Ancients that go well together, and doing so will make your game, you will chew through enemies very, very quickly. The one time I've come very close to killing the Extra Dimension boss, the one with 9,999 health, I've come very close to killing it a couple of times now, and most of the time it's with Assassin, because of Assassin's passive proc, which deals a percentage of his HP to him, and then you just deal a huge amount of damage with these like multi-attack cards. So you're going to play stuff like Masked Swordsman, which attack equal to the number of Masked Swordsmen in the game, and your strength goes a long way to going through that. Your High Witch and Young Witch for extra plays and weakness, so that you deal more damage with the weakness combination of like skills that you can get. King Neptune, which boosts your strength. Your Spirits of the Ancients combo, the 3 spirits that go together and are free plays until they transform. Then you have Portia, the Keeper of Silence, Kaldir, the Ethereal Blade, Alistar, Tranquility Defender, and So, the Blade of the Wind. These 4 are ancient cards that scale off the amount of ancients in the game. One of them is one that allows you to daze targets or to deal damage if they're planning on attacking you. Kaldir applies poison to your enemies, equal to the number of ancients in your deck, and then it replicates itself. Alistar, Tranquility Defender, shields you if it's still in your hand at the end of the turn, equal to the number of ancients in your deck, and it scales. So it's like 2 per ancient in your deck, or 3 per ancient in your deck, and you can boost that with resistance. And then So, the Blade of the Wind is basically a masked swordsman, but for ancients, and it deals X damage X times, where X is the amount of ancients in the game, which also scales with strength. So super useful to have this card. So Masked Swordsman and So, Blade of the Wind make that up, and you just deal so much damage quickly. You build up a lot of procs of your Assassin's Mark, because every single one of their casts and the multi-hit, that applies Assassin's Mark, which you'll just burn through HP at that point. It's super devastating. And then finally, we have Necromancer cards. The starter cards are 6 Undead Army Fighters and 2 Banshees. Undead Army Fighters deal damage and give you shield, while Banshees exile or remove a card from exile and apply weak, and then of course deal your passive damage to an enemy. So the first strategy you're going to want to go with Necromancer is going to be exiling away. You take the skills that proc off of exiling, and then of course you go through the Path of Flesh, which I love the Path of Flesh. It's kind of hard to beat. It transforms Undead Army Fighter and Banshee into their transformation forms, which give you more shield and more resistance and damage. And then of course the upgraded version of the Banshee just goes it deals so much damage. So with that, you're going to be playing cards like Sun Priestess, King and Queen Mermaids, Artillery Bot, which exiles itself, creates a copy just like Masked Swordsman, but it's a robot version of it. So this is going to be kind of a 2-part combo here. We're going to be playing robots, and then we're going to be playing exiling cards like the King and Queen of Mermaids and the Sun Priestess. And it's going to deal damage, and it's going to hurt you, of course, but you're not going to play too much Artillery Bot before your opponent's dead, so you don't need to worry about it. Young Witch to get your extra mana and your weak. Time Shifter in order to get cards back from exile. Then you have Sentinel, which when played, it creates a number of Robohounds equal to the number of robots that are in play, including an exile. You have Self-Destruction Robot. Artillery Bot is the nuke. Self-Destruction Robot is the replicate one. You already know what that one does. And then of course Iron Colossus, which gives you a huge amount of shield equal to the number of bots in the game. So this strategy is exile your own cards, and then just nuke everything with Artillery Bot or upgraded Banshee. The next strategy, and the last strategy I want to be talking about right now, is going to be the weakness strategy. The weakness strategy is very simple. You're going to be playing self-debuff, and you're going to be playing weakness on your enemies. So every time you take a debuff, you're going to get extra stats like strength and resistance. You're going to be resistant to a lot of what could be applied on you, and then you're going to want to take some cards that apply wound to yourself, because you could go down the path of blood, which every time you get wounded, instead of paying HP, you gain HP. And cards in this strategy are going to be like High Witch, Young Witch, Wizard, Forgotten Priestess, and then of course Necromancer Acolyte. If you can get more of these Necromancer Acolytes, replicating them and all of that fun stuff, is when they're played, they deal damage after applying weak to your opponents equal to the weak on your opponents. So the more weakness you can apply to your opponents, the better it is. And then of course any strong defensive playstyle, preferably Beastmen or Ancients, is going to be better for you. Being able to exile cards is always useful for the strategy of Necromancer, and then Beastmen are just a solid core regardless. Like Lollipup is just a super strong card. So being able to use them as a secondary in your deck to just applying weak to everything is just super useful. So that is going to be the strategy that you guys should be working towards for these 4 classes for early on. These will carry you to Inferno 5 without too much difficulty. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully you guys kind of get an idea of how to build some of these decks. I have a couple of resources which I will link in the description below for you if you are interested in learning more about a specific class, being able to go more in depth and to find out more information for higher Inferno difficulties. There are plenty of people who made guides, written guides primarily, online that will go more in depth with what you should do at the very beginning of the game, and it'll go specific maps, it'll tell you specific fights, it'll even go so far as in depth to tell you what you should have and shouldn't have or should be able to do when you are entering a certain stage, or how many bosses you've managed to kill. So I'll post that in the description below so you guys can take a look at that. And of course, if I had that information right in front of me, I would give a shout out to those individuals, but I'll definitely give a shout out in the description below. So thank you so much for watching this. If you liked the content and want to see more of this, feel free to leave a comment below, like, share the video, or even just kind of give me a shout out on social media. That'd be super awesome. And ultimately, to go a long way to convince me to kind of keep popping out this material, to keep doing this for this game and whatever else you want to see me do, feel free to just follow, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and watch these videos when they come out, because the better these videos do, the more likely I am to pump these videos out a little quicker. It kind of helps convince me, as I'm kind of like juggling a bunch of different things in life. So for those that have stuck around to the end, hopefully you guys did. Here's a note. I apologize for not uploading last week. I uploaded a single video. That was the book review that I did of The Empress. That was for a reason. Last week I uploaded only a single video because I found out that I have diabetes, and I have had a very fun last 2 weeks and haven't really had a lot of time myself to manage to kind of do everything that I need to do, and I've kind of fallen behind. So this video upload is going to be from last week, and I had to redo the video because I had music playing and I didn't realize it. So the music basically drowned out everything that I was trying to record. So thank you so much for coming around. If you guys have listened to the very end, you guys mean a lot to those that are watching these videos. And if you are one of those ones that is watched all the way through, even if it's on ×2 speed, feel free to just give me a thumbs up in the chat. That'd be super awesome to see that people are at least listening to when I go on my spiels like this. So, bye.